Hey everyone, welcome to another deep dive. Today we're going to be looking at some pretty interesting research by a guy named Dr. Masaru Emoto.
Yeah, Dr. Emoto.
Yeah.
He's a Japanese researcher who made some pretty bold claims about the power of human consciousness and its effects on water.
So we're talking about like more than just, dropping a pebble in a pond and seeing ripples.
Right.
But like our thoughts and emotions actually having a physical impact on water.
Exactly. His core idea is that water can hold and transmit information,
Right.
and that information can be influenced by us by our thoughts and emotions.
So it's like water's not just this passive substance.
Yeah.
It's like actively responding to the world around it.
Yeah, and what's fascinating is he didn't just theorize about this. He actually designed experiments to try to prove it.
Okay. I'm intrigued. What kind of experiments are we talking about?
Well, imagine this. You have two samples of water. One you play classical music to,
Okay.
and the other you blast heavy metal music.
And then you freeze both of them. What Emoto claimed was that the water exposed to classical music formed these beautiful symmetrical crystals when frozen,
Wow.
while the heavy metal water created these really distorted, chaotic structures.
So it's like the water was mirroring the energy of the music.
Yeah, in a way. It's like it was taking on the vibe.
That's wild.
And he didn't stop there. He also experimented with words.
Oh, okay. How did that work?
So he would take like bottles of water and write words on them,
Okay.
like love or gratitude on one bottle,
Okay.
and then hate or fear on another.
I think I see where this is going. Did the love water make those pretty crystals again?
You got it. The water exposed to positive words tended to form beautiful symmetrical crystals, while the water exposed to negative words formed these kind of broken and jumbled structures.
Okay, so that suggests that it's not just what we do physically that matters, but our thoughts and emotions could actually be impacting the world around us.
Right, and this is where it gets really interesting because people have connected Emoto's work to things like quantum physics.
Wait, hold on. Quantum physics, how does that fit in?
Well, quantum physics suggests that everything in the universe, including our thoughts and feelings, vibrates at a certain frequency.
Okay.
Emoto believed that these frequencies could be what's affecting the structure of water.
So our thoughts are like these little tuning forks sending out vibes that can change the physical world?
That's a very simplified way of putting it. But you're getting the idea, this concept that thoughts, which we normally think of as non-physical, might actually have a physical impact.
Yeah, that is mind-blowing. Now, you mentioned something else before, something about a morphogenetic field. What was that all about?
Ah, yes. That's a theory by a biologist named Dr. Rupert Sheldrake.
Okay.
And the idea is that there's this field of information that surrounds and influences the development of all living things.
Like an invisible blueprint that guides how things grow.
Exactly. From plants and animals to even us.
Okay, so how does that connect to Emoto's work with water?
Well, Emoto thought his water crystals might be showing us this field in action. Like they're visualizing the information that's being transmitted. He believed that our thoughts and intentions could leave an imprint on this field, and the water crystals were reflecting that imprint.
So we're talking about a connection between our consciousness, this unseen field of information, and the structure of water.
Exactly. It's a pretty profound idea.
It is, and it makes you wonder if there's more to reality than we can see or even fully understand yet.
Right. But we also have to acknowledge that there's been a lot of controversy surrounding Emoto's work. A lot of scientists have questioned his methods and conclusions.
Right, because as amazing as all of this sounds, I know there's been pushback from the scientific community.
Oh, definitely. Many scientists argue that his experiments lack the rigorous controls needed for scientific proof.
Okay, so what are some of the specific criticisms?
Well, for one, they questioned whether the people analyzing the crystal formations knew which water samples had been exposed to which words, music, or images.
That makes sense. So they're worried about bias in the results.
Exactly. They also point out that his findings haven't been consistently replicated by other researchers. And that's really important in science. You need to be able to repeat an experiment and get the same results for it to be considered valid.
So where does that leave us? Do we just dismiss Emoto's work completely, or is there something we can still take away from it, even if it's not fully accepted by mainstream science?
That's a great question, and I think it's one each person has to grapple with for themselves.
Yeah, I mean, even if his methods weren't perfect, the idea that our thoughts and emotions could have a real impact on the world is pretty mind-blowing.
It is, and it raises some really interesting questions about the nature of reality and our place in it.
It does.
Yeah.
Okay, so before we go too far down the rabbit hole, I want to talk about one of Emoto's experiments that anyone can try at home. The rice experiment.
Oh, yes, that's a fun one.
Yeah, it's super simple to set up, and it can give you some food for thought. No pun intended.
Basically, you just cook some rice, divide it into 2 jars, and label one with a positive word like love
Okay.
and the other with a negative word like hate.
All right.
Then you seal the jars and leave them for a while and see what happens.
I've heard the results can be pretty dramatic. People say the love rice stays pretty normal, while the hate rice gets moldy and gross way faster.
Yeah, it's fascinating. It
Mm.
makes you think about the power of words and intentions, even if it's just at a subconscious level.
Right. And whether or not you buy into the whole idea of water crystals, it's a cool experiment to try. It gets you thinking about the kind of energy we're putting out into the world.
Exactly. And it's a great way to engage with these ideas in a hands-on way. Whether you approach it with skepticism or an open mind, it can spark some really interesting conversations. So if you try it out, let us know how it goes.
Absolutely. We'd love to hear about your results. But for now, we've covered the basics of Emoto's work and some of the controversies surrounding it. Now let's dive into some of the specific experiments he did, because he went way beyond just music and words.
He did. He explored all sorts of things, from photographs to different types of water from around the world to even prayers and focused intentions. So yeah, let's get into it.
Okay, let's do it.
All right.
Okay, so we talked about how Emoto was experimenting with music and words and even intentions, but what other kinds of things was he looking at?
Well, he wanted to see if photographs or even the essence of flowers could impact water too.
So it wasn't just human-generated stuff like music or words, but also things from the natural world.
Right, like he would expose water samples to pictures of, say, cherry blossoms or dolphins,
Okay.
and then compare those to water that had been exposed to images of war or natural disasters.
I bet I can guess what happened. The peaceful images made those nice symmetrical crystals, and the negative ones, well, not so much.
You got it. It was as if the water was absorbing the energy or the feeling of the picture.
Like the water is this super sensitive mirror reflecting the world around it, even if we can't see it.
Exactly. And speaking of the natural world, he also did experiments with flower essences.
Flower essences, what are those?
They're like these concentrated extracts that capture the energetic qualities of a flower.
Okay, and what did you do with them?
He would add a few drops of flower essence to distilled water and then freeze it to see what kind of crystals formed. It turned out that each flower seemed to create its own unique crystal formation.
Really?
Yeah, almost like a fingerprint for that flower's energy.
Wow. So like a rose would make a different crystal than, say, a sunflower.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because the shape of the crystals often seem to reflect the qualities we associate with those flowers.
Give me an example.
Well, roses are associated with love and beauty, right?
Right.
And they tended to form these delicate symmetrical crystals.
Right.
But a cactus, which is known for being tough and resilient,
Yeah.
created a more robust and angular crystal.
It's like the water was capturing the essence of the flower.
It really does suggest a connection between the natural world and these unseen energies that are at play.
And remember we were talking about the morphogenetic field earlier.
Yeah.
Do you think these flower essence experiments tie into that at all?
Emoto believed they did. He saw water as this key element in understanding how that field works, how information is shared and transmitted throughout nature.
So the water crystals were like giving him a glimpse into this invisible world of information, showing him how everything is connected through energy.
That was his idea.
Yeah.
And if you think about it, it's not so crazy. I mean, water is essential for all life.
Absolutely.
And it makes up a huge part of our bodies and the bodies of all living things.
Right.
What if it's more than just a passive substance?
Mm-hmm.
What if it's actively involved in exchanging information, shaping and being shaped by everything around it?
Whoa. That is a huge idea. And it brings us back to the heart of Emoto's work. If water is so sensitive and our bodies are mostly water, what does that mean for us?
Right. If our thoughts and emotions can impact water outside of our bodies, could they be affecting the water inside us too?
That's a really good question. What if our inner world, our thoughts and emotions, are playing a much bigger role in our health and well-being than we realize?
Exactly. And it opens up fascinating questions about the power of positive thinking meditation, or even prayer, to impact our physical health.
It's almost like we're all walking, talking water crystals reflecting the energy of our thoughts and emotions.
In a way, yeah. It suggests we have a responsibility for the energy we cultivate within ourselves.
I love that perspective. It goes beyond just being amazed by these crystals to really thinking about what Emoto was trying to tell us.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And even if some of his claims are scientifically debatable, there's a core truth here that resonates with ancient wisdom and is being explored more in modern science.
Mm-hmm.
The idea that we're all interconnected and the energy we bring to the world really matters.
It's like a call to be more mindful of our impact. even down to the level of water molecules.
and to approach water with respect and reverence, not just as something that keeps us alive, but as a carrier of information and a reflection of our inner state.
Okay, so we've covered Emoto's experiments, the debate, and the bigger implications, but there's one more thing I wanted to touch on, his emphasis on the power of love and gratitude.
Oh yeah, that was huge for him. He really believed those were the highest vibrations we could express.
And that they had the strongest impact on water.
Absolutely. He was convinced that by cultivating love and gratitude, we could not only improve our own well-being, but also help heal and harmonize water on a global scale.
I remember reading that he claimed the word love consistently created the most beautiful water crystals.
That's right. And it wasn't just love, it was also gratitude appreciation, things like that.
It's like he was saying that by focusing on the positive, we can actually change the world around us.
Yeah, he saw his research as a bridge between science and spirituality,
Yeah.
a way to show that everything is connected and that human consciousness can transform the world.
Mm.
He even started an organization called the Emoto Peace Project to spread this message.
Wow, that's amazing. It's a reminder that even when faced with skepticism, there's always room for hope and for believing in our power to make a difference.
Exactly. And to always stay open to the possibility that there's more to the universe than we currently understand. So what do you think? Does any of this resonate with you?
It does. It's a lot to process, but it's definitely sparked my curiosity. I'm seeing water in a whole new light now. You know, it's amazing to think that something we use every day, something as basic as water, could be so mysterious.
I know, right? We drink it, we wash with it. But what if it's more than just H2O? What if it's a bridge between the physical world and consciousness?
That's a really interesting thought, and it makes those criticisms from the scientific community even more important to consider.
Definitely. When someone makes claims that challenge how we understand science, it's crucial to examine those claims carefully. That's how we learn and grow.
Right. So how have scientists responded to Emoto's work? What are their main concerns?
One of the biggest criticisms is that Emoto's experiments didn't have enough controls. Like scientists questioned whether the people looking at the crystals knew which water samples had been exposed to which words or music or pictures.
So they're basically saying there's a chance the results could have been influenced by what people expected to see.
Exactly. They also point out that other scientists haven't been able to replicate Emoto's results reliably. And in science, being able to repeat an experiment and get similar results is really important.
So does that mean we should just throw out all of Emoto's findings?
Not necessarily. It just means we need more research. More scientists need to investigate these ideas to see if there's a real measurable effect or if something else is going on.
Mm-hmm.
It's also worth remembering that Emoto's work blended science and spirituality, which can make it tricky to evaluate using traditional scientific methods.
But even if we acknowledge the scientific concerns, I think there's something about Emoto's work that speaks to a lot of people.
I agree. It taps into that feeling we have that we're connected to everything around us in ways we don't fully grasp.
Right. Maybe that's the real legacy of Emoto's research. He got people thinking about water in a whole new way and started a conversation about the connection between consciousness and the physical world.
And even if not all of his experiments hold up to scientific scrutiny, he encouraged millions of people to think about the impact of their thoughts and intentions, to appreciate water and to treat it with more respect.
And to be more mindful of how we interact with the world around us.
Absolutely. Emoto's work reminds us that we're not separate from nature. We're part of this incredible web of life, and everything we do, everything we think, sends ripples through that web.
So it's a call to be more aware of our impact,
Yeah.
to bring more love and gratitude into the world, and to see water not just as something we need to survive, but as something sacred and powerful.
Beautifully said. And on that note, I think we've reached the end of our deep dive. It's been a fascinating journey exploring the work of Dr. Masaru Emoto. We've delved into his experiments, examined the criticisms, and pondered the implications of his findings. Remember, folks, keep questioning, keep exploring, and always stay curious. And most importantly, stay hydrated.
That's great advice. Thanks so much for joining us on this deep dive. And to everyone listening out there, we'll catch you next time with another intriguing topic. Until then, keep those minds open and keep exploring the mysteries of our amazing universe.